Hello, everybody. I am the Reginald L. Jones Fellow at the Indianapolis Recorder, and this week I have the infamous Alpha Blackburn. I am honored to be in your presence, and thank you for taking the interview and allowing me to feature you in our segment this week. How are you today?
I'm good. Delighted to be here.
Thank you. All right, so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the Walter and Alpha Blackburn Scholarship, the ability to include yourself and who you are in this work, and the legacy of the scholarship and the fund and you altogether. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. So my first question is, we are in the 18th year of the Walter. Is that right? That's the 18th year, right?
That's correct.
Cool. All right. So we're in the 18th year. And I would like to know, what was it like in the beginning? If there were any times where it was, just overwhelming, um, what what helped you in regards to keep pushing forward in the thought process? Can you just give me a little bit of background in regarding that?
Well, I don't know if my experience is like others in this regard. Starting something always has a few concerns, but we didn't have very many hiccups.
Ah,
We started, I think, with such a strong idea
mm,
of how we could commemorate Walter's life
mm,
and celebrate that and his accomplishments in architecture and my skills as an artist to design the clothing for a special fashion show.
yeah, yeah.
We had the image in our mind so firmly that we just proceeded.
Mm,
And I think that initially there was not a lot of emphasis on my aspect of the program,
mm,
even though I'm sure that has attracted many of those who attend the event.
yeah.
Um, there are lots and lots of award shows.
Hmm.
They hire entertainment from out of town or from some other field or in some other way decide how they're going to keep the audience's attention.
Hmm. Hmm.
Award after award show after award show.
Right, right.
I think that my contributing my art to the whole process made it make sense
Hmm.
to combine the two of us.
Mm.
And it was only in the last 3 years that we decided I should add my name to it.
Uh,
Um, Initially, it was simply called the Blackburn Scholarship.
hmm.
And the event was called the Men of Substance and Style.
Hmm.
And emphasizing how important substance was
Hmm.
for him was without question, but emphasizing the substance of an artist beyond the art and craft and engineering of architecture,
Right.
something that we had not thought necessary until now. It
Mm.
became so evident. So we kind of added to the name, and I hope added to the idea that you proposed regarding recognition of a
Hmm.
woman's
Hmm.
art.
Yeah, I love the fact that it made sense, right? Like it was one of those things that it was not hard to do because you made it make sense, right? Like
Yeah,
it was easier along the thought path because adding the fashion show, adding your talent made it make more sense. But I love the fact that the expansion, right? Like it hasn't stopped expanding. And in the thought process, adding your name, adding more things that could help with the continual evolution is important, right?
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I hope that we've made the right move. I think so. People are very excited about the show.
Yeah.
And so many now refer to the event as a show.
Yeah.
And it is a show because it spotlights my work, but it also, in the historic purpose of the whole thing, spotlights the talents of Walter Blackburn and now so many what I call proteges since then, who are many of them architects themselves.
Yeah.
And the students, most of whom are aspiring architects,
Mm-hmm.
can see that it is an all inclusive effort on the part of our organizing committee.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea. I love the fact too that it's right here in Indiana. I love the fact that there are so many hidden gems architecturally in regards to Indiana as a state. Yeah, go ahead. Did you want to
Yes.
say something? Yeah.
No, go
Oh,
ahead.
yeah.
I agree with you. I jot down a few things so I wouldn't forget. I think they are in my program booklet, but the Freedom Center, um, whose proper name is the National Underground Railroad
Yeah.
Freedom
Mm-hmm.
Center, which we designed in our office. Walter is the designer of that building, is built in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Right.
And I have received just a couple of weeks ago notices from some of our regular attendees at
Ah,
the Fashion Gala who were at the Freedom Center to experience it for themselves. Which, if you've not gone, you got to go, Tasha.
yeah. I
I mean,
actually Thank you. I actually have gone and I've taken a group of students. I don't know if you know this or not, but I'm an educator along with being a writer. And so I have taken a group of students to Cincinnati, Ohio, to that Underground Railroad. And I think it's something that many schools in Indiana should do every year annually, right? Like it should be something that is a part of the curriculum, in my opinion, but that's a deeper and a different story. But even that building in that space, like I was saying before, I am honored or even glad that the fact that right here in Indiana and right here in the Midwest, there are things and representation of our culture, right? And like you said, that Freedom Center in Ohio is representation not only of our culture, but from the complete design aspect as well, right? And I love the
right.
fact that we have something to reference to and something that is so close and something that we can touch that's tangible, right? So I
Oh, such a beautiful way to express it. Thank you. And thank you for having gone.
yeah, thank
I'll
you.
name a couple of other places. The Purdue Black Cultural Center.
Mm, yeah.
I think that that's another place worth visiting.
Hmm.
And the Malcolm X Institute. When I tell people that Walter designed the Malcolm X Institute, they said, oh, and their ears perk up, but they have no idea that it's at DePaul University.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
They're shocked to know that there is such an entity at what could be, I think, argued is a very conservative minded institution and has had the kind of um, persona for so long,
Right.
that they also had a Black institute that they call Malcolm
Malcolm
X.
X,
And I'm
right.
proud of them for having done that.
Exactly, because the name itself would in an institution like that, people would uh, well, because United States is so polarized, people would want to think of Malcolm X as something other than he was, and it's beautiful to have the Malcolm X Institute at a university such as that, because what Malcolm um, really wanted, well, was people to understand who they were and who was surrounding them and how they could move forward in the progress.
You're so right. Now I want to mention, um, I told you about the Purdue Black
Yes,
Cultural Center. Have you been there?
I haven't.
I want you to go.
Okay.
And I think you'll get a sense of the design of that building from the Center for Leadership Development, because that iteration of their building was inspired by the Purdue Black Cultural Center, in that it is organized in very much the same way architecturally. But go to Purdue and notice the features that invite the whole community, with the Asian representative of the archway at the entrance, inviting the whole campus to understand that Black culture is American culture.
Absolutely.
That we are as much American as anyone else who calls themselves an American.
Yeah.
And I think that the students there have understood, through all of the architectural references and through the directorship there, who have been precisely directed to make sure that it is integral to the campus and not excluded by race from total integration into the curriculum and the concerns and the knowledge base of students at Purdue.
That's a good point too, that it's not a one-off or a standoff, that is integral and it's connected and it's interconnected and it's a part of the tapestry. And I like that. I love that thought process. Yeah, and that really shows to the brilliance of Walter and what he wanted to exude through his work. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, have you been to Grace Apostolic Church?
Right, Grace Apostolic Church?
Yes, right here in Indianapolis.
Are you telling me? Because I didn't see that in my research. That
I want you to go and visit Grace. Grace was designed top to bottom with emphasis on every single detail, including the design of the light fixtures. And I want you to see the full extent of creativity that Walter brought to that project. And I went there and recorded some memories with Bob Ostley, who was with the firm when the building was designed and understands all of the architectural features. But his remarks to me indicated that being inspired to join our firm, as opposed to any number of choices that he would have had, is exemplified still in what lives on as examples of Walter's work, and of, as he further expressed, the partnership that Walter and I had in creating so many of these works. At the time that we began, we couldn't afford to hire an interior designer. From get-go, I was involved in sharing my art with the work in the design of the interiors of these buildings. So I mentioned that finally to let you know that when I am seen as partner in work, it's not to overstep, but to at least state and not overstate that our participation in the arts began in art school at Howard University, where in life drawing, he and I met, and has, I think, changed certainly my life and his life to make us combined artists. For all of the years that I was fortunate to have been married to him, and over those 40 years, and now participating in the arts in Indianapolis, and our connection with the community was, I think, part and parcel of an artist's expression to communicate beyond what is internal to you. The creativity comes within, but the hope is always to reach people, to reach the community. And our collaboration, it has always been to uplift the community. You may not have seen or understood in your research that the attempt has always been to focus on those buildings and institutions that most guide and become guideposts for the community. Those are the churches, the schools, the fire department, those that save lives. Those institutions become pillars and guideposts and icons within every community.
Right. I did recognize in the research that his work was kind of a lighthouse or a beacon to the community. What I did not see and did not recognize was the interconnectedness with the church. And that just is a different expansion in my mind in regards to just the importance of the church, where the church is from the time of its conception with the actual creation, and where the church stands now in the community. There are so many things that are rolling in my mind in regarding that, but I love the fact that it's all interconnected that way, and that we can see a broader picture, right? Like it's not just so scaled in one direction. And I think that's the beauty, in my opinion. I think that's the beauty of us as a culture, that we're not monolithic. That we are expansive, and that we think in that term, that Ubuntu type term, like I am because you are, or that it takes a village to raise a child thought process, right? Like this work is expansive, it is about community, that it is about making sure that within these spaces that we create, you recognize that they are needed everywhere in every community.
Here's something I want you to think about when you visit Grace Apostolic Church, the leaders of the church could have built a new church anywhere they wanted to in the city. They could have moved to the far reaches, northeast or west, as other churches have done.
And they stayed.
They opted to build in their neighborhood,
Central.
in town,
Yeah.
where their parishioners were, and strengthen and lift the whole community by its being there.
That's powerful, right? To stay right there on 22nd Street and make sure that the church was a lighthouse and a beacon. That's really powerful. That could be a story within itself.
The tower, and I'm tickled that you use that allegory, that example. Each one has a tower. Look at the structure and you will see that it's meant to be a tower,
Yes.
a beacon in the community.
Yeah, I saw that when I looked at the work, when I did a little research, I did see that component, that it reminded me of that as a lighthouse. And so I'm grateful again to even have this conversation, because it deepens the surface knowledge, right, of what people understand. And the thought process, and I pray that this is what happened, is now going to inform a whole new generation of people about what has occurred and what is continuing to occur. And I think that is important. Those are important notes to emphasize. And so thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. Also, just before for our listeners and the people who are going to view, my initial thought in regards to asking about this connectivity of a husband and wife, I think you have unfurled it so beautifully to say that this was a partnership from the very beginning, right? Like he knew how to build the outer and inner surface, but I had the design component at all times. And I love that partnership, because so many times in your generation, I saw where women had their own dreams and aspirations, and then they kind of got swallowed by their husband's dreams and aspirations. And I used Coretta Scott King, where she was a beautiful singer, and then really, put her vision and dream to the side. And I'm not going to say she quit, maybe just put it to the side so she could and help enforce Martin's dream. And sometimes that gets lost in translation, but not with you and Walter. It has always been, from the very beginning, this collaborative effort to ensure even that male and feminine aspect component, right? Like there are some just soft touches that women bring and that you bring in the thought process. And I love that you shared that with me, that it has always been that concept. And whether it was out of need or whether it was out of partnership or collaboration, it was. And that is a beautiful component to add. And thank you for sharing that.
I want to say how grateful I am to you for your depth of perception on this particular aspect of our conversation, because it's not a given that it is acknowledged. Even today, women have to press against the society that still favors men,
Mm-hmm.
their opinions, their intelligence,
Right.
their efforts,
Right.
their businesses, their art. And it is an ongoing and has to be ongoing dialogue to encourage women to think of themselves as not subservient. Don't 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 confuse what the Bible says about subservience, because the intention is that people have equal worth and should be acknowledged for having equal worth. That's what equity and equality should be about.
Yes. Oh, you have nailed it on so many points. Like I said before, we could even go to a whole nother direction in regards to the churches and the church's aspect. But even your thought process in regards to misinterpreting the Bible. This week in the news, I think the Southern Baptists just voted again to ensure that women are not preachers, right? Like they and expelled two churches that had women who were preachers. But in the thought process, the 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 um the word is taken out of context, and so many
Absolutely.
times it is taken out of context in that thought process. And so yeah, I totally agree in regards to the constant push and the constant fight, and making sure that the work from the woman is exposed, and sometimes, in my opinion, it has to be exploited, right? Like I want to exploit the fact that this is a woman doing these things and have to do these things in the thought process. So thank you.
Yes.
All right. So one of the next questions that I really wanted to talk about is that now in today's society, social media plays a huge part in what people are doing, how they are exposed. And sometimes because you have a following and because you have a social media presence, the talent itself is not always there. How do you ensure, or how do you how do you separate that thought process of finding actual talent and helping persons who actually have talent and not followings to get to the places they need to get to? It relates to scholarship and making sure that they have what's necessary to move forward.
Oh, here, here's something else. Okay, let me put it this way. I just in the last couple of days, in conversation with one of my admirers, this one happened to be male, and he was speaking of his creative effort online. So I had seen the posts that he had put up, and it was full of embarrassing um, inaccuracies and bad grammar and other mistakes that you have to tactfully try to assist people with when you can. But I thought that it's important now to encourage people to get their competence to the level of their confidence.
That's good. That should be a t-shirt.
I think, and I point to your having gotten an advanced degree, and not to use myself as an example, but it's true that if I had not come to Indianapolis equipped with a couple of degrees, I would still be seen as just a dressmaker,
Yeah.
and not a designer,
Mm-hmm.
because the effort is always to try to suppress, not to express all that a person has
Mm-hmm.
going for them, to
Mm-hmm.
use a slang expression.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we just have to practice kindness in our efforts to uplift and encourage people to gain the necessary skills to really express themselves at the highest level. When people say, I just have to be myself, you might tell them, you could be yourself, but you could also be a better version of
Oh,
yourself.
that's good.
Think of it as every day having an opportunity to learn something. And when it comes to social media, we are constantly learning, and it is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
You give, however, anyone enough time, and they will reveal to you how much preparation they brought
Mm-hmm.
to that effort.
Mm-hmm.
And the appreciation will flow, we hope, like cream to the top. But that remains to be seen. There's certainly messages that we can give everyone, and that is that what you do post is there for life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And young people, especially, need to be made aware of that. There are embarrassments, and more important than that, dangers in young people trying to grab a handle on
Yeah.
this train that is running full speed ahead,
Yeah.
called the internet.
Yeah. It's definitely running full speed ahead. And I think you've made some valid points as it relates to the electronic footprint always being present. Like it's no erasure in regards to that. And I think that's one of the things as an educator that I try to do. And I know that the people that I surround myself do try to do that as well. But there is one thing that and there is one thing that you said that is just it is standing up in my mind right now, and is that growing the competency to the confidence. Man, that's a powerful statement. And I really, that is just extremely powerful. So thank you for sharing that. I'm taking away so much more than I I feel like I'm bringing. I love that I'm here and sitting at your feet, because you are bestowing these gems that are needed not just for me, but for the world and for the community. So thank you again for that. And I am also going to thank the Indianapolis Recorder for adding this component of the visual podcast to the website, because people can get more in depth from what the feature article is going to say or exude, you know what I'm saying? And so it's just added that added component. And I'm just grateful that they took my idea, and said yes to it. So this has been awesome so far. I only have a couple of more questions. I promise I'm not going to monopolize all of your time.
I promise not to talk so much.
No, you're not talking. You're not talking too much. It's never too much when you have this much wealth to share with us. So thank you for that. I am going to ask in regards to advice for young engineers, young person in art, young person in fashion. I know you spoke to having an education to back you in that thought process, and I know that that's a part of why you give to the scholarship. But can you please just really share some pertinent advice for young people who are thinking about the field, who may have some reservations in regards to the field? Do you have any advice for young people, and especially for uh, young women?
Well, the last I checked, there were among architects nationwide still only 3% are African American. New enrollees in architecture school now do comprise about 50% women. However, you could live your lifetime and not meet a Black architect. So if that is your dream, buckle down on your studies, get great grades, and even if you don't go into architecture, you will have the knowledge to pursue that career. And if it is your passion, you will find access to be a practicing architect. Starts with the desire, the knowledge first that it even exists as an option, and then the desire to pursue it, and the focus to get great grades, and you can succeed.
Yeah, I really love that. If it is your passion, then you will find access, right? It's almost like it's set up that way. If
Yeah.
you are determined enough, doors will open, right? I love that. Thank you for that. This is my last question, and it's not really a question, it's more so a statement. Tell me more about the upcoming event, because I think it's this weekend, right? You're having the annual event. So tell me more. What do you want people to know? How can they find out? How can they donate? How can they give?
The event is the 25th of June. It's a Sunday. And I encourage people to go to our website, Blackburn Scholarship, and there's a way there that you can donate directly to our efforts. We fund a $10,000 scholarship at every event, and so we follow them through 4 years of their study. It needs to be more, but right now it is set up for 4 years, and they get a portion of the 10,000 each year to hopefully build their confidence and courage to stay in school and to graduate.
Mhm.
I want them to, if there are any seats left, there are a few free seats that we reserve for first the family members of the students and scholars being honored. But there are a few, if you're there early when the event starts at 4 o'clock, you may be able to get a seat in the balcony at the Arts Garden and have a great view of the show. And I assure you, you'll be entertained, you'll be uplifted, you'll be inspired. I can't tell you about the recipient this year of the major scholarship award because it has not been publicized yet, and it won't be until the day of. So I hope you'll be there. Someone from the paper will be there
Yeah.
to get a photograph and tell this young woman's story. Just like last year's show, there was standing applause for our protege, who is someone we honor from the community. and we are honoring two women whose lives have been connected since before birth, as they are twins,
Yeah.
Larnell Burks Craig and
Oh,
Larnell Burks Bagley and Jarnell Burks Craig. And I want you to make sure I got their names correct. Let me make sure I did.
I will make sure. I will make sure. My family, the Jones family, loves the Burks family, right? And so
Right.
we have this beautiful relationship with the Burks and what they have also contributed to the community. So I will make sure. Continue. I'm sorry.
Great, great. I've been saying their names so much, and I've got the two a little bit confused. So make sure you get that correct. But it's going to be a joy to honor the two of them together at this event as proteges. And I select the proteges based on their similarities to Walter Blackburn's character and emphasis and example, that of service to the community, dedication to family, community, and professional excellence, which they exemplify.
Yeah, they do. Definitely do. Thank you for that. This has been amazing. You continue to blow my mind, and we thank you and honor you for being a pillar in this community, and thank you for allowing me, the Reginald L. Jones Fellow, to write this feature and to feature you in the Indianapolis Recorder. This has been amazing. Thank you so very much, and I will see you Sunday.
My thanks to you, to Reginald Jones, and to you, Tasha, and the Recorder. It has been my pleasure.
Thank you. Bye.